Ready?
Okay, are you ready? May all beings be happy and secure. May all beings have happy minds. Whatever living beings there may be, without exception, weak or strong, long, large, medium, short, subtle or gross, visible or invisible, living near or far, born or coming to birth, may all beings have happy minds. Let no one deceive another, nor despise anyone anywhere, neither from anger nor ill will should anyone wish harm to another. As a mother would risk her own life to protect her only child, even so towards all living beings one should cultivate a boundless heart. One should cultivate for all the world a heart of boundless loving friendliness, above, below, and all around, unobstructed, without hate or resentment, whether standing, walking, sitting, lying down, or whenever awake. One should develop this mindfulness. This is called divinely dwelling here, not falling into erroneous views, but virtuous and endowed with vision, removing desires for sensual pleasures. One comes never again to birth in the womb. With this very noble thought of metta, let us begin our practice. As we repeated in the past, today we are going to repeat the same thing. Let us pay total, mindful, undivided attention to our breath. As we breathe in, we notice the breath touching the nostrils, and then we notice the expansion of lower abdomen and the expansion of upper chest area. As we breathe out, we notice lower abdomen contracting, chest area contracting, and breath leaving the nostrils. Noticing this inhaling and exhaling. Also we notice little pause between inhaling and exhaling. And then we notice the feeling that arises, feeling of the breath, perceptions, thoughts, and consciousness also change as quickly as they arise. As when we breathe out, they change as quickly as they arise. So we keep noticing this rising and falling of the breath, feeling, perceptions, thought, and consciousness. That is very natural thing. As we notice it, the mind trains itself to let go of whatever arises without trying to hold on to them. What is left, what is gone. You can never find a trace of that behind. And therefore, that very nature of clinging, craving also ceases, depending on how quickly they arise and pass away. And also our body and mind relax, the breath relax, mind relax, body relaxes, and in the relaxed state of mind, rigidity, uptightness fades away. Metta feeling arises in the relaxed state of mind without having any resentment or anger in the mind. And then also we notice that there are so many living, suffering beings all around, and our mind naturally goes to them, and that is how our compassion arises, restlessness and worry fades away. And then consequently, we also notice compassion. When compassion arises, we notice the mind becomes very active, not agitated, excited, but spiritually active, active to continue this very noble practice. And then our sleepiness and drowsiness fade away. And then also we notice when these results are clear in our mind, whatever doubt we had previously would fade away during that time. This is very important thing. We see rising and falling, we experience relaxing, we experience compassion, we experience energy, we experience, and then these experiences are good enough for doubt to fade away. And then a joy arises when we see this reality, that we make progress in our practice and we see the benefit. Then joy arises, which leads to happiness, and happiness leads to concentration. Buddha said it is happy mind that gains concentration. When we gain concentration, we can see deepest changes taking place in our body, feeling, perception, thought and consciousness, which we saw earlier, not very deeply, but when we gain concentration, these changes become very, very sharp, clear and subtle. And they also we can notice that way. That is how we see that there is no permanent something, permanent self, and changes, impermanence, and the notion of I all vanish. Vanish at least temporarily, and we keep practicing to see this reality happening in us. This is exactly what we want to know. This is the nature of Dhamma that we can personally experience right here and now as we are practicing. Dukkha pattaca nidukkha, bhaya pattaca nibbhaya, soka pattaca nisoka, hontu sabbe pipanino. May the suffering be free from suffering. May the fear-struck be free from fear. May the grieving be free from grief. So too may all beings be. With this metta thought, let us focus our mind on the Dhamma that I try to explain in today's Dhamma talk. Friends, we have been talking on dependent origination. When you really look at life or anything, You never find anything that exists by itself. Everything exists depending on something. Now let us see, or let us elaborate this little further for us to have even clearer, better understanding of what we meant. There is a very many discourses that Buddha has delivered. It is said 84,000 sermons. If we pick any sermon, you find this message directly or indirectly mentioned. Today I picked up, I was thinking of it for some times. I picked up one of those discourses, which is called Khajjaniya Sutta, which you find in Sangyutta Nikaya, Khanda Sangyutta. Khanda Sangyutta is in the third volume of Sangyutta Nikaya. So there you find this discourse. Khajjaniya is being devoured or being eaten or being consumed. That is what Khajjaniya means. Let us see how this happens. So Buddha said, bhikkhus, yehi kech bhikkhave sanava brahmanava aneka vihitam pubbe nivasam anusaranti sabbete panchupadana kande anusaranti ete sangva anyatarang. Bhikkhus, those recluses and Brahmins who recollect their manifold past abodes, all recollect the five aggregates subject to changing, subject to clinging, or certain one among them. You just imagine if somebody has this knowledge through the practice of meditation and attaining jhanas, and then gain supernatural power, one of which is to be able to recollect one's own previous lives, many previous lives. When you hear this, the doubt that people have that Buddha taught everything but previous birth or knowing previous birth or rebirth and so forth. That doubt can be vanished when you see the Buddha's teaching very clearly. He referred to previous lives, meaning that we existed in different forms in the past. So when somebody attains this as special knowledge, that person, only that person can see his or her own previous life in details. When they recollect, they can be Brahmins or monastics. This implies that before the Buddha's attainment of enlightenment, there were Brahmins and ascetics who had attained jhanas and gained these supernatural powers, referring to them, and also in his following Buddha's own teaching, also his disciples attained jhanas and gain supernatural powers. Not all of them. Some who practice very special practice gain this knowledge, and they can recollect their previous lives, and so they will not have any doubt about rebirth. When they recollect their previous lives, what do they recollect? What do they see? The five aggregates subject to clinging. Because clinging is so deeply rooted samsaric mental habit. Even though the previous lives existed and passed away without leaving any trace, either buried or cremated, that life is no longer there. But the clinging that we build up during our samsaric existence has become a habit, mental habit. And that habit is extremely difficult to wipe out. It is not easy to wipe out. It lingers in our mental strength, in our mind. Although everything is impermanent, this sort of habit also impermanent, but impermanently they arise and pass away in short. So, whenever one wants to recollect previous lives, they recollect the five aggregates of clinging, since they were clung to their own previous lives. They have not abandoned it when they passed away, and they wanted to exist in future, though with that desire, that clinging, we take rebirth again. And in this life, we practice meditation and gain this supernatural power, and then recollect the previous life. When they recollect the previous life, mendicants and Brahmins, what do they recollect? When recollecting thus, because I had such form in the past. Five aggregates are form, feeling, perception, thoughts, and consciousness. So when they recollect, what do they recollect? They recollect, I had such form in the past. It is just form that one recollects. When we recollect, I had the form in the past, it is just this form that they recollect. When they recollect, I had such a feeling in the past, it is just feeling that one recollects. When recollecting, I had such a perception in the past, it is just perception that one recollects. When recollecting, I had such volitional formations in the past, it is just volitional formation that one recollects. When recollecting, I had such consciousness in the past, it is just consciousness that one recollects. Now, the Buddha said it is just form, just feeling, just perception, just volitional formations, just consciousness that one recollects. Nothing else. So they cannot see the whole mechanism, but they recollect superficially these five aggregates of clinging, because these are the aggregates, as you know, is the group of various things put together, we call it aggregate. And they have clung to the form in the past, and therefore when they recollect the form that they had clung to. It is just that form. Similarly, the feeling, perception, perception is a cognitive factor. We call it cognition or recognition. So we recognize that particular aspect of our aggregate when we recollect in this very life. So the Buddha, having explained this in brief, he gave a definition of each of these aggregates. Definitions of each of these aggregates. And Buddha said all in Pali, I say it all in English, but the Pali word sometimes I have to use uh, because it has very special meaning. Kincha bhikkhave rupang vadeta. Kincha bhikkhave rupang vadeta. And why bhikkhus do you call it form? It is deformed because therefore it is called form. When you hear the word deform, you may have some kind of negative feeling. For instance, some are born with deformation. Hands, legs, and so forth now are not properly formed, and that is called deform or deformation. And Buddha did not mean that. He said, deformed by what? Now, this deform does not happen independently, automatically by itself. Deformed by cold, deformed by heat, deformed by hunger, deformed by thirst, deformed by contact with flies, mosquitoes, wind, sun, serpents. It is deformed because therefore it is called form. Now, Pali word is lujjati. Kinch rupanti bhikkhave sitampi ruppati or ruppati. Unnenapi ruppati. Jigachayapi ruppati. Pipasayapi ruppati. Dangsamakasavata tapasring sampasampansenapi ruppati. Ruppati tu ko bhikkhave tasma rupanti uchyati. Ruppati is translated as deform. What it means is when, let us, for example, take deformed with the cold. When we experience cold, what happens? Our sweat pores close. Sweat pores close. And inner sweat cannot come out through the sweat pores because of the cold. The sweat pores close. And therefore, this closing when it is cold and when it is hot like now, the sweat pores open. Now, you can notice all those who learn biology, chemistry, even physics, you can notice when cold and heat affect the skin opens and closes and opens. As you know, skin and the nose are the two main opening to the outside world, external world. These are the main doors that expose or contact the world. Eyes, ears, nose, and so forth are also, but these two, even if we close our eyes, ears, and so forth, nose and skin exposed to the world, exposed to to outside. And therefore, when cold and heat affect the skin, they open and close. When they open and close, the previous state of the body is changed into different state. That is called deform. The previous formation change into another formation. That is what is called deform here. What you call ruppana. Otherwise, this deform doesn't mean the physical deform in general. Sitena and deformed by heat and deformed by hunger. That happens inwardly, inside. When we are hungry, we feel the hunger, and our stomach generates the gastric juice, digestive juice, and so forth. Its original form, when we had food in the stomach, will change into different form. That's called deformation, hunger. And then deformed by thirst. We all know when we are thirsty, how it deformed our previous state of the body. Dry throat, dry body, and so on. Then flies, mosquitoes, and the sun, wind, serpents, and so forth. When anything that affects this skin will make it otherwise other than what it originally has been. And that is called deform. These changes take place. And therefore it is called form. These sort of things can happen only to form. What is form? Made up of four elements: earth, air, water, fire. And it is the earth, air, water, fire outside when they affect this inner so-called body made up of those elements, change their positions. So these sort of things can happen only to the form. And it is this form that one recollect. In previous life, and such a life, I was in such and such a hot place. I felt heat. I was hungry. I was thirsty. The place may be many thousands of miles away, and also time may be 100 years ago. And yet the time and space is not obstruction for somebody to recall previous lives, because this clinging attachment, and which they build up as a habit. So in this life they recollect this body. And then when they feel feeling of what they feel, where they feel pleasure and feeling pain and feeling neither pain nor pleasure. If feel it feels because therefore it is called feeling. Since the feel is the factor that props up in our mind, it is called feeling. Feeling. What do we feel? Pleasure, pain, neither pain nor pleasure. When they recollect the previous existence, they recollect, they remember how much pleasure they experienced. The pleasure itself was gone many hundreds years ago, many thousands of miles away. Pleasure is gone. But the habit, oh, this is called aggregates of clinging. The mind has been clung to the pleasant feeling in the past. And that clinging has built up as a habit again and again, not once or twice or 3, 4 times, trillions of times. That feeling, as soon as that pleasant feeling arose, the clinging arose, and then it put its own power into the mind, and that becomes a habit. So anytime that person either sees something or hear something, smell something, taste something, or touch something, or think something which is pleasant, that becomes a clinging aggregate feeling. So it becomes a habit so deeply rooted in the mind. So even in this life, when the person has attained jhanas, supernatural powers, it is this habit that the person will recollect. It is so deeply rooted, so powerfully established in the mind. Although it is impermanent, the habit is repeating again and again and again. And therefore they recollect that habit of pleasure, habit of pain also at such and such a place, in such and such a life, so many years ago, such and such a thing happened to me, so and so beat me up, so and so insulted me, and so cut me up, and so forth. All these things we recollect. And each time he recollects this, he has this pain now. He experienced that pain now, as he experienced that pleasure now, just that pleasure or that pain, now he experiences in this life, while he is in this jhanic state. He recollects. And then he recollects the neither pleasant nor unpleasant feeling that he experienced in the past. In the past, when neither pleasant nor experience unpleasant, pleasant or neither pleasant nor unpleasant feeling arose, he did not do anything about it because he does not know what to do about it. He just got stuck and got confused as underlying tendency of neither pleasant nor unpleasant feeling. And that is the confusion that he will recollect when he remembers the previous neither pleasant nor unpleasant feeling. So that is how it happens, and therefore it is called feeling. And then why, because do you call it perception? It perceives because therefore it is called perception. And what does he perceive? Or what it perceives? It perceives blue, it perceives yellow, it perceives red, it perceives white, perceives because therefore it is called perception or cognition. He cognized blue, cognized yellow, cognized red, cognized white, and this cognition takes place through the eye. That is cognizing the color. Also that person can cognize the sound, whether it is human sound, animal sound, high pitch, low pitch, and so forth. That also he can perceive. That also is perception. Then he perceives the smell through the nose, pleasant smell, unpleasant smell, pungent smell of orange, smell of apple, and so forth and so on. All kind of smell of perfume, body odor, and so forth and so on. All these will recognize, and so he cognizes first and then recognizes. Therefore, it is called perception. Then, what is called volitional formations? Volitional formations is called, they construct the conditioned because therefore they are called volitional formations. This is even more important. Others are not less important, but this is most outstanding feature in our understanding of Dhamma, volitional formations. And what is it condition that they construct? Sankatang abhisankaronti iti sankara. That is very important teaching to remember. Tasma sankarati uchanti. Kincha sankatang sankaronti, rupang rupattha sankatang sankaronti. It says, what is the condition they condition? They construct condition form as form. They construct condition feeling as feeling. They condition perception as perception. They construct condition volitional formations as volitional formations. They construct condition consciousness as consciousness. Now here we see, even they construct conditioned perception as perception, they construct conditioned volitional formations as volitional formations. Now, I think the word sankara needs little more explanation, but I don't think I have time to do that now. We say they condition what is already conditioned. They construct the condition, construct, sort of rebuild, refurbish, repair, prepare. Say repair, or repair may be somewhat better term. Repair what is already built, just like building, you build a house, you repair it. Similarly, this conditions, they condition what is constructed, the form, for instance, the body. our body. Our body is always conditioned. Body is conditioned, and this conditioned body is reconditioning. Conditioned body is reconditioning. For instance, there are inhaling, exhaling is body conditioner. Why inhaling, exhaling is called body conditioner? Because it conditions this body. Conditions how? Because inhaling, exhaling bring oxygen. Inhaling, exhaling brings oxygen not only to condition, but to make us alive. We cannot live without oxygen. And therefore, oxygen that we breathe in and out, since oxygen conditions or reconditions the body again and again and again 24 hours until we live, the oxygen reconditions us. Every cell, every atom, every neuron, every what do you call capillary, everything in this body, skin, eyebrow, everything is reconditioned by oxygen. And therefore, inhaling, exhaling is called body conditioner, kaya sankara. Kaya sankara. So we have vachi sankara, chitta sankara or mano sankara, and I think perhaps we may explain them. We did explain in the past when we talk about sankara, but in this particular context, it is better to repeat for us to remember or recollect our own previous studies. I think with this I want to end today's talk, and I will continue this as a part of this series and see how dependent origination affect, dependent origination spread. It is such a powerful thing. It embraces everything, and therefore it is not very easy to understand in one or few talks. We have to keep trying as much as we can to get some idea of dependent origination. With this, I want to end this morning's talk. We started with metta and end this session with metta. It doesn't mean metta ends here and now. It is something ongoing practice. Friends, we want to wish all those who are in suffering from this COVID-19 in hospitals, at homes, rehabilitating, quarantining, and so on. May they all get well as quickly as possible, and the doctors and nurses, hospital staffs that support them in many, many, many ways in a very compassionate way. May they all continue their wonderful, selfless, risky service, risky in the sense that they themselves can be exposed to this virus, and I hope they will be safe and stay healthy. And there are some others who have lost their loved ones, and I hope through the understanding of Dhamma, practice in Dhamma and meditation, they will be able to overcome their grief and live long in very good health. There are many people who are supporting them. I heard some people have already been successful in finding some vaccine in Oxford University in England has come up with vaccine. They are testing. Some countries have already signed contracts for millions of vaccines, and we want to wish them to be very successful. Come soon, to every country and help these people. And there are many others leaders who are doing very beautiful job to save their citizens from this COVID-19. There are some other leaders who are trying hard and uh, not being able to do much to prevent this, but I hope they are doing their best, and we want to wish them to be more compassionate, understanding, and insightful to make right, wise decision. With this benediction, I want to end this morning's talk. Thank you very much for coming and participating and encouraging us to continue these sessions.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Bhante.
Bhante. Thank you,
Pranam.
sadhu,
Bhante,
sadhu.
Bhante,
Thank you, Brian.
Okay.
Sadhu, sadhu,
sadhu.
sadhu.